say something?
Hey, what about eating the vegetables? The way I had my vegetable.
Dylan, for real.
Let's eat this one. Yep.
She wanted to do.
And a stack of cheese.
It's funny to watch her squeeze stuff in the way.
What?
Okay. Daddy got you. You like? All right, me and Carter about to buck this thing up. Haul it off. It's this big maple, piece of maple that split off there. And we may be taking the whole tree down later. You can see there's an electric line there though, so you gotta be careful with stuff like that. But I'm not really blaming them for wanting to take it down because, huh? See what it looks like here in the middle. So much weight over here on this one too. Going that way. This one, that's what I was telling her, we could probably leave it because it's kind of going straight up. But she's wanting the whole thing taken down. See that? It's pretty hollow. Go ahead and buck it up though and get it to the trailer and then bring it home and split it. Ready? Alright, me and Carter did this earlier today. It was just part of the maple tree itself, I guess. It kind of split off into 3 trunks there, and this was one of them that had fell off from the last big windstorm we got. And the woman, I know her because my cousin is husband to her daughter. And so that's how I know this woman. And this is a maple here, as you can, many of you can probably tell by looking at it. And they paid me to do this, and it didn't take very long to do this particular job. And the hardest part really was just getting the wood out of there, carrying it, and even that wasn't too bad. At the beginning, you'll notice I tried to carry some of them, and they're just too big and heavy to be carrying that far because I had to park on the road. I had a trailer with me, and so I had to carry these to the trailer, and it was a little ways from her backyard there, so that was the hardest part. If I'd have been smart from the beginning, really, or done the smarter thing instead of trying to, take less trips, that was my intention with not splitting them, quartering them, or having them. My intention was to take less trips, but I went ahead and halved them with my axe and the one I got from Gary, and that made it so much easier to carry them. Storm comes in. I think it's about to storm on us. Yeah, like that round there, the first one you seen me put on my shoulder is too heavy to really be carrying that far. Really be carrying it all on that one as well. I'm not trying to be a tough guy by doing it. That's just how I've done it for a long time, and it just makes less trips. But I felt it in my back after I was done, so I definitely don't recommend that. That's why I'm standing them up here. I go back with the axe I got from Gary and split them in half. I could already feel that in the back carrying these, so that's not smart. I don't recommend carrying these big heavy rounds like that, especially the distance we're carrying them. So I'm gonna try to split them in half. I forgot Excalibur at home. I got it out the other day for some reason. So I'm gonna use it. Yeah, I got some good photos. With that, if you hit that, it goes through, get that handle, just split it. Just lay up my axe, I got. I'll do it again. And toy. Yeah, I kind of got on the Carter there because if you can see that log in the background there, it's kind of hollow. And I didn't realize he was doing it until I looked over. But when I looked over, I saw that he was kind of playing with that axe and almost hitting it right underneath the head there, you know, where you can split it. And he does stuff like that pretty often, which that's kids for you. But at the same time, it's a part of an adult's responsibility to discipline the kids and not let them get by with doing stuff like that. That's what I was telling them. I said, it's not a toy, you know, don't let me see you do that again. Some people don't like that, but that's how I raise my kids. I definitely believe in discipline. I think that's what's wrong with a lot of kids nowadays and a lot of adults as well because they weren't disciplined the way they should have been. I see a lot of grown men, too, laying around doing nothing. I mean, men in their 30s laying around doing nothing, letting their parents support them, and it's a shame. It really is. When I look around and see that, it just makes me so ashamed, really, at them. And as well, when I see parents, like I'll see parents letting their little children cuss and stuff like that a lot of times. And they'll laugh about it and stuff like it's cute or something. And to me, it's a disgrace, really, when I see that. Some people may not like that. I believe the Word of God. I've said that many times. I'm old-fashioned. I don't believe God's ways change. And I think it's very important to raise your children right. And when you see parents doing stuff like that and just letting their kids get by with things like that and even laughing about it, you know, as if it's funny, it's not a joke to me. To me, it's just a shame. Crack is going right across that notch. I'm going to go for that. Got it looking good over there, buddy.
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good. How you?
Doing good. That's a big tree, wasn't it?
It was a big tree. Yes, he's wanting the rest of it down later, I believe. Yeah, because that one, where it's leaning that way, and it's kind of into that electric line there, so she's wanting that down later.
Yeah. I don't blame her.
You got that down right before the rain, probably, didn't you?
Yeah.
Supposed to get some, ain't we?
Yeah. It feels like it's coming.
Yeah, it does. We needed it, though, didn't we?
We did.
I'm kind of glad it's coming, really. I think all week's supposed to maybe be doing that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
The rain can show, man.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you take it easy. It was good talking to you. Beside the knot on this one. Man, it's a carry this one, Carter. Just flip it over because the knot looks like it's.
Yeah, that's what I do. Flip it over this.
Oh yeah, it's more hollow on this side.
Yeah, that's what I do. Just flip it over, split it on that one side.
Well, you want the knot on the bottom.
Yeah. It's easier the other way.
There we go.
Definitely changed, didn't it?
Yep. Is it? Okay. Pretty good tires, mate. All right, here we are now continuing to carry the pieces. It took more trips, but they were much easier on the body. You know, they drained you less, so it was definitely much easier. Some of them maple, when they were full rounds, I'm guessing they were 80 to 100 pounds. Some of them, a couple of them were very heavy. This is green wet maple, so, and it's not exactly little, so it wasn't too light. But that helped a whole lot cutting it in half like that. I don't recommend carrying them the way you see me doing it at the beginning. I've done that many times, but that doesn't mean it's the smartest way. But all in all, this was a good day too. It was kind of beginning to sprinkle on us there. We really needed that, and not only that, it cooled it off a lot there too as we were working. It really seemed to drop the temperature when that. You can see it's windy there, as if a storm's coming in, and here it is almost 9:30 at night, and it still hasn't really rained. We got a light sprinkle while we are there, really just enough to make it feel good. Honestly, I don't mind that. You know, as long as I'm not working in soaking wet clothes. I've done that many times, but I don't enjoy it. I don't think many people do. But as you can see, we got this cleared up pretty well for it. What really wasn't a big job. Didn't take very long. All it was just kind of bucking that up and then carrying it to the trailer and hauling it off. And here later on, you'll see us split it in this video if you continue to watch. But she got me to price that tree to her, that maple, for doing the whole thing, and I gave her a price on that for later on. Didn't take too long to get that. It's starting to rain on us, ain't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it has. Right before it.
We needed the rain though. Yeah. All right, now here we are at home unloading the wood. As you can see there, I ain't been splitting a whole lot and bringing it home lately, which I normally don't this time of year, but I said my goal was to try to get 50 cords, and honestly, that's probably not going to happen as little as I've been doing splitting here recently. Gonna split a little bit of this wood we got earlier. Burn some of the scraps from the wood yard. Got a bunch of them, don't we?
Yep. What's that coming along in there?
Yeah, you can show yours too if you want. So this one's probably definitely more of a chopping axe. That's the worst splitting axe I've got. This also to me is more of a chopping axe, but I do split woods that are easier to split with it. This one is a splitting axe to me, one I got from Gary. It reminds me of the Tasmanian pattern in a way, but definitely more of a splitting axe. See, I've hit the dirt with it earlier. I was splitting them big rounds. Look at the handle on it since I got it from him. I jumped on the Carter earlier for it because he was playing with it and came close to smashing it right there. I seen him because the log was rotten. Doing my best to take care of it, but there you see, if you take care of your axe, I've split a lot with this thing. Same handle I got from Gary. Look at it. Got a mark on it, really. Want to show yours, Carter? Go ahead. No, go ahead. Sit there and talk about it.
No.
Go ahead. How you gonna be a wood man?
It's a good splitting axe that I got from Gary.
Show the profile. Here's the profile. Gary put that together too. He did a really good job with these. And the guy that did the handle did awesome too. Got that double bit inside in the building too that I got from him. But this one's definitely the better splitter. That's why I use it for splitting. And I like this handle, how thin it is right there. See how thin that handle is? It's really comfortable. I just don't like it to be too thin up here on the shoulder, because that's where it fails at it. It's too thin in my opinion. This is green maple. Huh?
I have no idea what I
You're splitting pine. You're splitting pine.
Pretty good. I didn't know that.
It's going now. That pine gets it going. Love burning pine outside. It smells really good, doesn't it? Now the rest of the video is pretty much us just splitting this stuff. And Carter, I had told him earlier in the video, or earlier before we even started here, to stay back away from me, and I honestly was not even paying attention. So that's my fault, as well as his for not listening to me, because I told him not to be around me when I was splitting. And I noticed when I was editing this, he was right there and I was splitting. So, and as you've seen, if you watch that one video, the axe head flying off on me. You know, I've split around Carter many times, and that's usually with the Fiskars almost always, but and even with that axe, it can fly out of your hand or anything. So I don't, you know, of course it's dangerous. But with a wooden handled axe, it's much more dangerous in my opinion, especially after what happened to me with that one, because it was deadly. I mean, There's a video I have called Axe Head Projectile, and you can see that the axe head fly off if you watch that. What I'm talking about there is the knot that's in that and going around that knot. You can actually see right there where I put my finger where it's splitting naturally around that knot. And as you see there, I hit that barely and it went. So we got paid to haul this off. It didn't take very long. We was there, I'd say, all in all, probably around an hour. And then came home and split it. And went ahead and stacked it as well. And I was kind of trying to clean some stuff up there because I had quite a bit of wood laying around there. Some to the left there, too, that you can't see. And then I've got a couple piles back there behind me that aren't split yet. And there was things like bark and just pieces of the wood laying around. And I was kind of trying to burn that stuff while we did this. It's actually still burning right now. As I said, it's around 9:30. And the fire's still burning right now. So the kids are outside playing. I think they're looking for lightning bugs. I'm sitting in the van editing this video, doing the audio. And yeah, it looks like they're all out here looking for lightning bugs. My wife and all my kids are outside. What I was talking about earlier, though, as far as discipline goes, I don't know about you all, but when I was a little boy, I know it's kind of off subject, but when I was a little boy, I used to get whipped. And my dad whipped me with a belt growing up. As I got older, he did, as I began to get older. And honestly, every whipping I got, if I'm not mistaken, from what I remember, I deserved them, and I probably needed a whole lot more. See there how far the axe head went in? And see how the wedge just kind of begins to start right there? See how the wedge it kind of just starts to hit the wedge part right here? See how deep that goes? Give me that Fiskars, Carter. Show something real quick. That's why I like the Fiskars. Some of those designs with the long bit, I've noticed some of them that have, they'll make it a splitting axe, but the wedge doesn't start until way up here. I think it's better, the sooner the better, honestly, in my opinion, with the wedge. Because every time you hit, your axe isn't going to go that deep. Okay, now, look at the Fiskars isn't even as deep as that. See right here? Look how much deeper that one is. A good inch deeper at least, maybe 2. But look at how much wider the wedge is here on the Fiskars compared to this wedge. Even though this is a good splitting axe I got from Gary. It's a traditional axe that you can use for splitting. But that's why I really like this design of the Fiskars, because look at the wedge. It's so much wider, twice as wide. And it's not even as deep. If it was as deep as that, it'd be 3 times as wide. If it was as deep as that axe, it'd be 3 times as thick.
Oh, that would have been split, huh?
Yeah, that's why it splits so good. Part of why. Fire's going good now, isn't it? Yeah. There I was showing the profiles, as you could see. I thought that'd be a good opportunity just because that one got stuck, and where it was right at the edge of the wood, you could really see how deep the bit went. And so I wanted to show that. And as you see, even with it being an inch deeper than the Fiskars wedge was spreading out much more, 2 to 3 times as much more as that axe. And that's a great traditional splitting axe, That's why I was trying to highlight exactly how well I believe the head on that Fiskars works. It really does. I've seen some axes where people will make splitting axes and they'll make the bit really long on it, The blade of the axe will be very long, and it takes a long time going up the axe head, from the edge of the axe up. It takes a long time before it begins to spread out, and I don't think that's a good idea. I think the sooner you spread out, the better. Because you got to think you're going to have to drive that axe head down into that wood that far, that much farther before the wedge has any effect. And this is maple, you're not going that deep on oak a lot of the times. Not that deep as I did on that maple. Without probably splitting it, A lot of the times you may go in an inch or 2 on oak, and then so your wedge is really important, at that point. You've got an inch or 2 up from the edge of your axe up, So the wider it is, 2 inches up, the better, in my opinion. Definitely, I believe without a doubt it is. And so I believe that's why a lot of time, and I love a splitting axe. I prefer it over them all any day. I truly do. And as I said before, I do believe that there's lots of wood you can get away with just about any axe you want. And then there's some woods that you cannot do that. You cannot do it. White oak is one of them. You cannot get away with just any axe on white oak. You need a good splitting axe or a maul, really. I mean, you don't have to have, but it's not enjoyable if you've got an axe that doesn't split good. It's almost frustrating, really. And I've done it more than once, and that's why I'm saying that. For me, anyways, personally, that's why I really love that Fisker's axe. But earlier, what I was talking about too, I'm kind of making a point with this as far as disciplining kids go. I know that's completely off subject and everything, but I don't know about, as I said, I don't know about how many of the other people that watch this may have been. But when I was a little boy, I got whippings growing up, and I needed them. I believe in whipping your children, spanking them. What some people call spanking, I call it whipping. But yeah, I got a lot of them and needed a lot more, honestly. But, yeah, I whip my kids. And that's something that, I don't like to discipline my kids in front of people, period. I don't like to. It feels uncomfortable. It's just kind of something personal, It's uncomfortable. I don't like to hold my wife's hand in front of people. For me, that's personal, Kind of the same thing with my kids. And some people will do that, Some people do that stuff in public. To me, that's uncomfortable to see in other people. And it's personal, and it's something that should be between you and your wife. Same with the kids in a way, I believe it's kind of personal, and it's kind of just between you and your family, And but now, don't get me wrong. There's been times my kids before have done, like Carter. There's been times in the past where I'd be at a job doing something, and he would kind of back talk me in a way in front of a customer, and I would say something to him, and he would kind of keep going with it. And I wouldn't do nothing at that point. There's times, I'd tell him, don't back talk me. But when I got him home, I whipped his hind end. And I believe in doing that wholeheartedly. I think that's what's wrong with a lot of kids nowadays and adults is they didn't get their hind ends whipped good growing up. And you see how they turn out. The Bible says a child left to himself bringeth his mother to shame. I've seen a lot of children like that as they get older. They have no respect for adults. They have no respect for themselves or other people. They're just, it's really a shame to see, honestly, and the reason I bring it up is it's a very common thing nowadays. The generation we're living in right now, it's very common to see very disrespectful people, period. Not just children, but adults as well. And it's just a shame to see it, but that's the way it is. Big difference. Big difference. They're meant for different purposes. Look at the thickness difference. Huge. Definitely like this one better, the thinner one. But look at the difference.
That one handle's longer than that.
Longer and a lot, way thicker.
Yeah. Huge.
I think it's a 32 from Gary, or 30 or 32. 32, I think, maybe. This one's a 36. See the difference in them. I kind of explained to Carter right here just some tips, because I seen some things that would help him. And one thing was where he brings his axe up. He's not bringing his axe up above his head. He's kind of just bringing it up to shoulder height and then bringing it down. And I've noticed that since he started splitting pretty much, but I haven't said anything about it because I wanted him to kind of get comfortable. But at the same time, as I said before, practicing good practices from the beginning. So I mentioned that to him, bringing it up above your head and then bringing it down. So around and up above your head and then down. And as soon as he began to do that, I noticed he was generating more power. And he did as well. But I also told him, that's new to you, so take your time with that because you're not used to splitting that way. So, don't try to split as fast as you normally try to because that's new for you. Now, right here, you can see I haven't told him at this point yet. I was telling him something else. So you see he's not bringing the axe up above his head. You see it where he's bringing it up to? He's pretty much just bringing it straight, almost straight up. But here later, you'll notice he starts bringing it up above his head after I show him. It may be right here that I show him. And he starts bringing it up above his head. And I was also telling him if the round is kind of going downhill like that, have it going downhill away from you and not towards you. If it's towards you, I've noticed you lose a lot of power like that. If the round is not cut, straight, or if you're splitting maybe on a slope or something. Sometimes a round will either be going downhill away from you or downhill towards you. And I think it's better to have it going downhill away from you, myself, from what I've found. Back to the subject again of discipline children. I've on that a lot. And it's because I was wanting to mention something when I was a little boy. I remember doing this a long time ago. My Papa Mike, I called him Papa Mike, my dad's dad. He had real big hands. He wasn't a real big man. He just had real big hands. I remember it. I remember that very well about him. And I remember when I was a little boy one day, we had this back porch, and it was kind of, it was screened in and had a picnic table inside. And there was this big bowl on it full of water. And I dumped that water onto the floor, and he kind of got onto me for it. And he said, Dylan, don't pour that on this floor like that. And right after he told me that, I did it again and kind of smiled. And he came after me after that. And he needed to. I don't blame him at all. I don't believe in letting your kids do that stuff. But I jumped up and ran out the screen door. I was maybe around Carter's age, 9 or 10. Took off running and slipped and fell. And in order to avoid stepping on me, he jumped over top of me. I remember this perfect. And why I remember it is because of how he whipped me, honestly. So he jumped over top of me, and he came back and grabbed me by my legs and picked me up. Not all the way off the ground, but just my legs up off the ground. And he wore my hind end out with his hand. I mean, like I said, he had big hands. And I did not forget that whipping. I mean, I'm 31 years old. I was probably 9 or 10 then. And I have not forgot that whipping. It's probably one of the worst I've ever got. And my dad, when I was growing up, I got whipped with a belt. Some people call that abuse nowadays, but anyways, I got whipped with the belt growing up, as I got older anyways. And as I said, there's many, I needed every one of them I got, and there's many of them I didn't get that I needed. But that stuck with me after Papa whipped me with that belt. I knew to not disobey him again like that. And what it was me just being bratty. Kids are going to be kids. You're going to be kids, but that's the parent's job to teach them. From the parent's perspective, you know better. You've been through that already. They're little children. There's really things they don't know better than. Like my little girl, my smallest one, she'll smack you in the face if you let her. She's about too little really to discipline right now. She's just a baby, so you can't really do nothing about it. But as they get older and they learn, then I believe it's very important. I know it is very important to teach them respect and teach them to obey you. There's many, like my little boy Camden, he's really bad about doing things that will get himself hurt because he doesn't listen. Like I'll tell him to stop running with this in his hand or stop doing this or stop doing that. And he's really bad about going and doing it anyways, And so my kids get spankings is what I guess you could call it. And I got them growing up too. And we're just living in a world nowadays where they'll put you in jail for that and everything. And I understand with abuse, I'm not for that. That's going too far. You can definitely do that. But as far as discipline goes, the Bible says if you spare the rod, you spoil the child. I believe that wholeheartedly. And honestly, I don't know why I'm on this subject in this video for. I really don't. This is kind of on my mind today, and I'm not really sure. I guess maybe because I kind of got on to Carter earlier in the video. So that's why. But if you made it up to this point, I appreciate your watching very much. There's some peach L8 I wanted to show that the elderly man who I split some wood for here recently, he had some of those, and man, they are good. But as always, I appreciate your watching. Anybody that does this or any other type of dangerous work, just be safe, and God bless you.